What is up, YouTube? Mr. Terry back with another History Teacher Reacts video. And we are back with another Mitsi Studio video, going down all the popular ones that you guys have been suggesting to me. I'm having so much fun with these. And I want to thank Mitsi Studio, who has been watching me watch these. They responded to one of my comments in the video where I was saying, I wish that these could be like school friendly. And here's the comment they posted. And don't worry, Mitsi Studio, you don't need to change anything for me. We can teach the kids right here on the channel. All right, the original video is linked down below. Check that out first. Give them a view, like, subscribe to their channel. They seem like awesome dudes. Now, this video is called Life of a Gladiator. I know I'm going to love learning about it and talking about this with you guys. Let's check it out. All right, this is the closest to, I guess, a gladiator helmet that I have. As you know, I always got to protect myself in these videos. We'll see if it'll help me here. All right, I love learning about the gladiators. I've learned some cool stuff over the years. I'm so excited to see what they got. You know it's going to be gory, and they said in their comment that that's something they can't change. Maybe with some of the language, but maybe the gore. But again, like I said, they don't need to change for me. But I know my kids would like this. I guess I just have to tell them to come over to the site, to my channel to check this out and tip me to watch it. But I don't know. Kids will be kids. They're going to do whatever. Here we go. The Colosseum, the Flavian Amphitheater, as it was called back then. They didn't call it the Colosseum back then. Now it's Il Colosseo.
The origin of gladiatorial combat might go back to the 3rd century BC, with blood rites staged at the funerals of wealthy nobles. When distinguished aristocrats died, their families would hold graveside bouts between enslaved people or condemned prisoners.
Wow, okay, I'm learning something. Yeah, I had no idea actually when it started. Also, when did gladiator battles stop? Like, was that something they did till the end, when the Roman Empire was overthrown in 476? If anyone know, let me know.
Kind of macabre eulogy for the virtues the person had demonstrated in life. Let's hope those fighters didn't have their own slaves to fight on their funerals.
That's true.
Would be a very busy day for the Undertaker.
It seems like such a weird thing. It's like, all right, we're here to honor our fallen comrade or whatever, family member. And what we're going to do is watch somebody kill someone else. We got a dead person here, but let's watch another person die. Dude, the Romans had such a morbid like sense of entertainment. Just imagine like that being a thing today where he actually died. Like boxing, MMA, that's already cutting it pretty close, right?
These funeral rituals increased in scope during the reign of Julius Caesar, who staged bouts between hundreds of gladiators in honor of his deceased father and daughter.
Well, I was going to say, it makes sense. Julius Caesar slaughtered how many Gauls? Couple million or something like that. Dude, the barbarity of his invasion of Gaul, which is modern day France, is so insane. They just absolutely slaughtered potentially millions of people. So that makes sense. Julius Caesar is this bloodthirsty warmonger like he was. Would love this stuff. Probably built a whole bunch of little Colosseums around. They used to do that. He'd build them, and I don't know. Are there any in modern day France of little Colosseums? I've seen them in like North Africa.
Caesar, who staged bouts between hundreds of gladiators in honor of his deceased father and daughter. The games became hugely popular, to a point where people probably didn't really give a shit anymore whose funeral it was. They just wanted to enjoy some good old carnage, go home and eat grapes on a stone bench.
So yeah. And the thing is, dude, if somebody can make money off of it, the Romans were all about that. So hey, there we go. Let's just charge some tickets,
With the gladiatorial games already being widely present in Roman culture, the decision was made to build a giant amphitheater in the center of Rome. It was named the Flavian Amphitheater, better known as the Colosseum.
Oh, cool thing there. Yes, the Flavian Amphitheater, best known as the Colosseum, had a retractable roof on it. They would do stuff and have events, obviously, at daytime before light bulbs and all that stuff. So you would do it in the day, and the primetime games were the human on human fighting. In the opening days, actually, when they opened up the Colosseum, they did for days and days for like grand opening. You could go to multiple events at if I remember right, in the morning, the first events, and this sounds like, I guess, a great way to spend your breakfast time, was to watch criminals be executed. Yeah. And then they would have fights like humans versus animals. And then the biggest one was humans on humans. That was the prime time ticket. But anyways, that could be in the very hot part of the day. So yeah, they had it was actually run by Roman sailors, and they set up these it's kind of like sails when you think about it, and they would operate that. You can actually see the post holes today around the top of the Colosseum. And again, they could actually shift the kind of oculus, the open part, depending on where the sun is that day or at that time of day, and keep everybody kind of shaded. Very cool, huh?
During the many centuries of gladiatorial games, many people came, fought, and died in the Roman Colosseum. Because of the immense popularity of the Colosseum and the games, it was clear to many gladiators their imminent fate.
Ugh. Ooh. By the way, Colosseum, probably about 50,000 people could go there. It's like a modern day, like NFL stadium. And it had bathrooms in it. It had drinking fountains in it. And one of the fun things, if you haven't heard, it was hooked up to the aqueducts. Now, of course, they got water in for it, right? So you get your little drinking fountains or whatever. But there was evidence that in the early years of the Colosseum, they could flood the bottom of it and have naval battles in it. No, not the ones like in Gladiator 2 where they had sharks swimming around it, because that was ridiculous. But yeah, they'd have like little boats, and they'd actually would do that and have those fights. And that would have been so cool to watch, don't you think? If all the different things I wish I could see out there, I would much rather see that than just a straight up gladiator fight, even though people are going to be dying in those. They eventually abandoned those little naval battles. It was probably really hard to actually be able to like flood it successfully. Then you would drain it. So they stopped that. And that's when they built the Hypogeum, which is the kind of basement structure. So they ended up digging that out, and that was used as like the barracks where these guys are going to be coming out of underneath for the gladiators. It's also where they would store the animals, and it had the trap doors and stuff. And, the gladiators would be fighting, and all of a sudden some door opens out of the ground, and then crawls out some tiger that the guy now has to kill. It was just amazing that way. The Colosseum had numbered gates, just like we have today. So you basically knew where you were going to sit. And the last final fun fact about the opening days: price of admission, free. It was seen as a public service at that time. So pretty cool.
Many of the fighters knew days before if they were fighting a regular gladiator or a wild animal.
It said that they hunted down so many exotic animals from North Africa, like lions, that they were like going extinct in certain areas because they killed so many animals. It's really sad.
Or your survival chances as a gladiator strongly depended on your status.
There were some people
who chose to be a gladiator.
So they wanted to see you get eaten by the tiger. They kind of set that up. And again, I told you they had events where they would just like sick the animals basically, and they would do it on criminals. They don't want to see you kill the animal. Like, maybe I want to see that. I want to see you get ripped to shreds by a lion.
But most of them were enslaved people or prisoners of war.
They were slaves.
If that was the case, your chances of survival could be not so good.
Enemy soldiers had combat
Criminals
skills.
were also sent to the Colosseum to earn their freedom. This might sound promising, but you can probably guess where this is going.
Yeah.
These fighters had little to no value and were mostly slaughtered by better trained opponents.
Yeah. And it was very much one-sided. They wanted those guys to get killed, those slaves. But you have something to fight for, because it's like you don't have a choice. You might as well fight, and maybe you could win your freedom that way.
Became a bestiarius, and were mostly slaughtered by better trained opponents. Or they became a bestiarius, meaning they were eaten alive by lions, crushed by elephants, or just died from their wounds while recovering. Rough day at the office.
Elephants too.
As mentioned before, most gladiators were slaves.
I mean, do you guys think you could really stomach watching the systematic killing of people like that? Like, were the Romans that desensitized? Are we that desensitized? Be honest.
Rough day at the office. As mentioned before, most gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals. Despite having to endure the dangers of daily gladiatorial fighting, these gladiators were trained in special fighting schools. There were people involved who invested in time, money, and resources to get these fighters to become highly skilled in fighting.
Sure, you had guys that paid for them. Kind of like somebody, I guess, would sponsor a boxer today. So they would buy these slaves, then, of course, make money, right? They're going to make money off of this. So you wanted them to be trained. You wanted to have, you don't want to keep going through, all these slave fighters, too, because you got to replace them. So you want them to, be trained. There's an investment, at least from that person, Just like a boxing promoter, you want your guy to do well so you could keep using him.
But also in survival.
Yeah.
If these fighters would last as short as the average Qatar construction worker, that would be too much of an expense for most investors.
Qatar construction worker, that's a callback to the World Cup where they had brutal working conditions. I guess a lot of people died building stadiums for the World Cup.
It would be too costly to just throw a bunch of these expensive gladiators in front of a group of friendly lions. Sorry, Mr. Criminal, looks like your number is up now. Most of the games consisted of two gladiators fighting each other. The audience would decide in the end if both gladiators fought bravely.
That was the one.
So, most of the times, the defeated gladiator would receive mercy and live to fight another day.
So if you fought well, yeah, the whole like thing. Now, isn't the thumb thing like actually not how we use the thumbs today? I thought I remember that being a myth, that almost like down was good and like up was bad. Is that it? Was that right? Is that a misconception I'm thinking of, or?
If the emperor or audience was displeased, they would give the victorious gladiator a sign to basically finish the torture.
Wasn't it like the opposite of what we do today?
On special events, large group battles were staged to give the audience a proper show. Wild animals were mixed in to spice things up a bit more, while criminals and thugs were torn to pieces.
Now again, I told you they would have traps sometimes. In the Hippogeum, you'd have a trap door. So you have it sand covered, right? They use sand on the floor so it could soak the blood, and then you could, get out the blood easy. By the way, gladiators, the actual gladiators, the ones that were not the slaves, got it paid extremely well. If you're one of those primetime fighters, you could get what would the equivalent today, I heard, like hundreds of thousands of dollars for a fight in modern day money. Kind of like how a primetime boxer can get millions for a fight, today, like a Floyd Mayweather or something. Yeah, you could get hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you could die.
More skilled fighters with long-distance weapons could easily pick off a few lions.
That's
Sometimes
like cheap,
the animals
were
were set to fight each other. On one occasion, an elephant was fighting an enraged rhinoceros where the elephant poked the eye out of its adversary. Not your casual family circus act you would bring your kids to.
I was just about to ask you, who do you think would win an elephant versus rhino fight? Oh my gosh. The kids are crying.
Damnatio and Bestias was a game where two guys stood on a seesaw with their arms tied to their waist. Wild animals would be set loose into the arena. The audience could then place bets on who would be eaten alive first. Obviously, the winner of the game didn't enjoy his victory for long because of the unfortunate way a seesaw works.
Oh, I was wondering, okay, you want to be the lighter person on the seesaw. Is that what you call those? Seesaws, right? Because the heavy person's going to weigh you and you'll be up high, maybe away from them. But again, I guess it doesn't matter. It only extends your life a little bit because eventually the other guy is going to get eaten.
Women were also sent in the arena to fight. They fought mostly other women.
I haven't heard of female
occasions,
gladiators.
they wrestled a group of dwarves armed with meat cleavers. There was no point in that day wearing a lot of upper body armor.
Would men fight women?
The battles involving women as gladiators ended when Emperor Septimius Severus banned their participation. A shame there were no women's rights back then to keep them in the game.
Oh, yeah, that's the part of the women's rights. So they had to draw the line there. They're like, who cares about the mass slaughter of exotic animals and all of these other innocent people? They finally got a moral conscience, I guess, when women, it went too far.
During the reign of Emperor Titus, the Colosseum was flooded with more than 1 million gallons of water.
Oh, they did it. Titus was the emperor when it opened. If I remember right, before him, Vespasian was the one that had ordered its building. Some other interesting parts about when it was built, too. It was actually built on the grounds of Nero's pleasure palace. If you remember the famous story about Rome burning down, that was in a downtown district of Rome. And they also think, Nero, did he start it? He probably didn't, because he actually wasn't even in Rome at the time. But anyway, he, in that burned down, high valued downtown district, when those homes burned down, he ends up building a pleasure palace to himself. After he was dead, they removed it. I think it was Vespasian that did it, and built the Colosseum, probably to, again, get goodwill towards the people there, and had that built. But he died, if I remember right before the grand opening of it. So he didn't get to see it. So Titus got to inherit it. And as you see here, with the aqueducts connected to it, they could bring in water and do. I'm so glad they're going to share this.
This created a water mass of 5 feet deep, enough to stage large-scale naval reenactments, which were called normatia.
Okay, that's
multiple
cool,
boats
right?
were floated around, attacking each other by boarding the
wanna see all
vessels,
the death.
slaughtering and drowning their foes, until
no
only one
sharks?
faction was left standing or floating. These battles were one of the largest events the Colosseum organized.
Really?
However, the flooding and draining of the arena took too much time and resources.
Right.
Subsequently, the underground drainages were replaced with animal cages to facilitate animal fights.
Yeah, they call that the Hippogeum today. If I remember right, they're doing a massive flooring construction project where they're trying to, I think, rebuild the floor right now. When I went a few years ago to Rome, they had about a quarter of it of like a platform, so you could kind of get the feel of it. But they also wanted to show, I think, the inner kind of skeleton structure of the Hippogeum. But from what I understand, I think they're building a multi-million-dollar full cover of it. And from what I had heard too, I think they want to do like more events and stuff there. Like I don't know, concerts or something, where more people can be on the floor, if I remember right. But yeah, it makes sense that they would stop, the water stuff. That's a lot of fresh water. That again, Rome's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's kind of 1 million people at a point to use on something like this. It would have been cool while it lasted.
After many years of gladiatorial games, it was not uncommon for emperors to participate in the games themselves. During the reign of Marcus Aurelius Commodus, it was the emperor himself who entered the arena to fight along his gladiator colleagues. This sounds like a brave thing to do, until you consider he mostly fought physically disabled people, or people who were instructed to give their lives.
Yeah, are they really gonna put him against the all-stars? Heck no.
His sadistic creativity led to multiple battles orchestrated in a way that they resembled something more of an execution than an actual fair fight.
I think if you killed
I guess the emperor
though,
didn't really get the notion that beating up physically disabled people publicly is not going to make you look very cool.
Some emperors were disabled. Claudius was kind of disabled. He had some physical issues. I know that happened with that. If you heard me there, I wonder if you could get your freedom though. Still, if you were one of those gladiators that fought, and like if you killed the emperor, would you get punished? Do you think, or could you earn your freedom?
While most people who died in the Colosseum were slaves, criminals, or prisoners of war, there were also Roman citizens who voluntarily became gladiators.
Right.
In Roman culture, a successful gladiator was treated like a superstar.
Yeah.
Their successes were quickly picked up by the crowd, and this could boost the social rank of the gladiator to new heights.
For sure. They were athlete celebrities. They were like a LeBron James. One of the cool things we found in the graffiti at Pompeii is actually some graffiti of probably like younger boys or whatever, and they would draw their like favorite gladiators, and we knew some of their names from it. They wrote it like on their walls, and again, they thought they were so cool. Women loved gladiators. They thought they were very sexy, you know what I mean? There's even these stories of women that would buy little vials, little kind of bottles of gladiator sweat. They would buy it, and they thought of it like an aphrodisiac to get you in the mood or whatever. I know that sounds really gross, but again, they thought they were hot.
Equaling that of many Roman nobles. They would enjoy the presence of women, since they were looked upon as the embodiment of the ultimate Roman sex symbol. Because the profits earned from battles increased alongside the improved status of the gladiator, these fights would only be reserved for specific events and would not be exposed to any unnecessary dangers. If the fighter was defeated, he still had the advantage of potentially having the crowd on his side. For any judgment call with a thumb up, thumb closed situation, this could be handy. Nevertheless, the true dangers of living a life as a gladiator are not to be ignored.
I was like, this video was very close to maybe being able to show in the class. I mean, it's kind of got the cartoon violence, but hasn't, for the most part, at least the language hasn't been too bad. But what was going on there in the back of the limo, I don't think that was sly enough that people wouldn't notice. And students might say something, the ones that are going to be the not fun ones, get us in trouble, teachers.
Over time, many of these fighters even formed unions with their own elected leader. When a warrior fell in battle, these groups would ensure that their comrades received a proper funeral, including a grave inscription honoring their achievements in the arena.
I mean, it'd be like somebody you fought in like the military with. You could probably grow so close with these guys because you train together. You were probably owned by the same slave owner, gladiator owner, and spend all that time together, depending on how long, I mean, obviously you live. I don't know what the average fight, what's the average amount of fights that somebody would fight in before they die? Like, is it mostly like one or, multiple? I don't know. I remember that there is a gladiator that I think we know who had the best record, like how many wins he had. I forgot his name, but I thought I remember hearing about that before. If you know, let me know down below. Remind me.
If the deceased had a wife and children, they would also see that the family received monetary compensation for their loss.
These aren't the slave
When
ones,
you think of
though,
gladiators, I bet you are not instantly thinking of life insurance policies.
Yeah.
But there you go. With over hundreds of years of gladiatorial games, some estimates put the total kill count of the Roman Colosseum around 400,000 souls.
Oh, gosh.
While most of the people that entered the arena as a gladiator would eventually die, in a few cases, gladiators did earn their freedom and set foot outside the circular walls as a free man or woman.
In the movie Gladiator, wasn't the guy that owned Russell Crowe, wasn't he like a former gladiator that won his freedom and then started buying gladiators? Is that right? I gotta rewatch that movie. It's so good. The first one, the second one was terrible.
Despite the hopes of being one of the few to survive as a gladiator, for some, the attraction of the Colosseum itself, the games, the dangers, its victories, and overall the mighty roar of 50,000 people screaming their name would truly be their one and only destiny.
Cool.
Check out our new store for cool Mitsi merch, or join our Patreon community. Check out our Patreon and become a member today.
Awesome. Definitely join them, give them your support. Final thoughts. All right. Thank you so much for watching this with me. Hopefully I was able to add some other fun little details that weren't in the video. And again, thanks to Mitsi Studio for being so cool about me covering their stuff. Again, check out their videos, subscribe to their channel. Let me know which ones you would like me to cover as well. Of course, put in the comments, but best place to get videos to my attention is actually the Discord server. There's a video suggestions channel that I am checking every day. Link to that is down below. And with that, we'll hope to see more of you, and we'll see you all next time.